Javelins, freelancers, ladies, gentlemen, boys, and girls, welcome to another episode of AnthemCast, a special episode, a follow-up episode, of course, from our interview with Mr. Warner. So I feel, Binary, I think we're a bit naked just with the two of us today.
Yeah, just back to our lonely twosomes. It's a little, well, I'm not naked. Just to put that, I'm not naked. Gaz may be from the waist down, but I'm definitely not. No.
Yeah.
It's still there. It's still there.
Just checking. Oh dear, how have you been?
Oh mate, I've been good. I've been balls to the wall busy. Like literally so busy. I didn't even know I was going to be able to record today, so I apologise to everyone that we're late. It's completely my fault, not Gaz's. Yeah, no, it's been really busy and good. So I'm away in Amsterdam all week this week for a work conference. So 3 days of conference, and then I'm staying out for another 3 days with a couple of work colleagues, and we're going to go and doing all stuff Amsterdam. But yeah, apart from that though, pretty good, man. Yeah, how about you?
Oh mate, I've had an interesting day. I've been helping. We had a guy deliver some bathroom material, some vanities, and a few things for our bathroom
material. What, like soap?
But it was raining. It was raining, and the guy arrived, and I was there to help him unload the truck. And he said, "Oh, I can't do it because it's raining." And I stood there and I thought, if I was in England, what would this guy do? Like.
He couldn't unload the truck because it's raining.
Yeah, he said the driveway is too slippery, and I said, "Mate, we'll be all right. We'll be okay." Just so I spent 20 minutes debating with him over whether to unload or not.
As it's getting more and more wet.
That's right. So I was sitting there in the rain, just getting wet, debating. Anyway, we got there. We got there eventually. So that was my joy. That was my joy of today. But
that's so funny.
But I think we've had, more interesting news, more exciting news, more interesting things, more special announcements, if you will, that has happened to the universe that is Anthem Universe. Binary, could you share the wonderful news?
Kapow!
We're pregnant.
We are pregnant. Yeah.
Well, we are now after this.
Kapow!
Oh, yeah. dear me. So we are, of course, very excited to announce that EA has been very generous to reach out and say game changes. So what does that mean, Bonnie? What does that mean for us?
What does that mean for us? That we are now EA sellouts. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We support microtransactions. Suspend all your money. No.
There's a little slot machine. We're just going to feed it straight through.
I think what it means really is just that the team over, or AJ for definitely AJ, has obviously noticed, and obviously John Warner as well. And I've just noticed that we're adding something to the community, which sort of makes us feel fantastic. And none of us could be here without all of you peoples. But yeah, it just means that we're able to have some insider knowledge, or they'll have some content sharing with us prior to general, so we can sort of help us bring you more information, as well as I'm sure some cool bits that we can't talk about, and then some cool bits that we can talk about. So we'll just see. We don't know really. If any of you are quite aware, it's very similar to the Ubisoft Star Player program, where you get access to games and stuff like that, but you also get access to content and information about games that you don't usually get access to. So what we're hoping really, for us definitely, is probably more along the interview side. So we'll be able to get access to people that we don't usually get access to, so that we can interview them on the podcast, basically, and the show, so we can get them on live, right? And we're hoping that that's really what we can do and use it for. But we're extremely grateful to AJ, the Anthem community developer, and obviously to EA as well. And next year is going to be a very cool ride.
Indeed. And I think I like you mentioned there's a comparison there to the Ubisoft Star Player program. And we were talking about this the other day, but we used to do some work on the Division, and Ubisoft actually reached out to to me for an event here in Australia to do an Ubisoft Star Player. So I basically got access to the Ubi Star Player and the Game Changer in the same weekend, and I was literally
Crying.
ecstatic. I was speechless. But I realized sadly that I couldn't actually go to the PAX conversation. So yeah, unfortunately, that means that I didn't get to do.
That's
the
so
second
tragic.
part.
That's so tragic, isn't it? That two things happen at the same time. Like, what are the chances too? That's just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, very exciting. But as you say, I like the idea that whether or not we'll have access to some things and hopefully be able to share those things. But what I'm really looking forward to is bouncing elements through the community. So when we do find out those pieces of information, to be able to share that in the Discord, and then to maybe shell out with some of the regulars, and people like Alum and Anjex who are currently in there, of course, Giselle and many of the others that are always around having a chat. I think it'd be very interesting to bounce to you guys and sort of reflect on different things. So very exciting, very cool.
Yeah, very, very. But we are thankful because we wouldn't be Anthem Universe would not be Game Changers without all you ugly bastards. So thank you.
Nice. Very nice. And of course, it was off the exciting week that we had last time when we were fortunate enough to meet Mr. Warner, as we mentioned earlier. And I was just going to bounce it out there if there was any curiosities or questions from that interview. But to me, what were your, I guess, takeaways from that day, from that beautiful hour with Mr. Warner? Is there something that stood out for you?
Oh, do you know what? How incredibly humble and well balanced that guy is. Like, he's very Mr. Miyagi of the game developer world. Right? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could just see him, in the lunch area going, yeah, wash on, wash off, wash on. He's like,
yeah,
he's very veteran, right? And he is a veteran, obviously, right? He did his time in the services, but he has a very, even over, and it's sometimes Google, doing video doing video chats like this isn't very personable, and you don't get a lot of, you don't usually get the same connection as you do when you're with someone face to face, right?
Mm.
But he has this aura around him that still transcended across the medium of the internet, which I found fascinating.
It was very easy, wasn't it? Like, it can be.
Yeah.
We've done this a few times, or we've had sort of a guest where we've interviewed or had different conversations, and it's not an easy conversation because you want to welcome people and celebrate them. You don't want to go over the top, but then you want to give them the floor, and sometimes they don't always take the floor as you expect them to.
Yeah, that's right. He was just a fascinating dude. Yeah, clearly lots of history, lots of wealth of knowledge, and is also, clearly a. No, that's the Grabbits picture, and I'm just going to add that picture in. Actually, I didn't do that. What did I do with it? There we go. Hey.
Oh, the happy picture.
Yeah, he's just such a happy guy, So, just such a happy guy. Obviously, living in Canada for so long that he's just become a really nice person.
It does it, yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think you can, as you see, you can imagine he's the guy who, as you say, people are stressing out, crunch time's on, challenges ahead, and as you say, he's the guy that's just bringing the cool and keeping people focused. And I think he mentioned things like philosophy and psychology and other things that he studied. So you can kind of tell. I think he would be that guy, as you say, the Zen guy. I like that.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing we took away, I mean, there were some little tidbits in there. There was, conversations about some of the leaders, some of the factions. There's some information in particular about, I mean, at the end, he spoke about the stream setup, the likelihood that BioWare is going to be having some sort of streams, live streams, dev streams, something like that. So I guess that makes sense, but hopefully that will be able to give us some visibility between now and February, because we don't know what their plans are as yet, but I suspect it'll be a stream schedule of sorts.
That would be pretty cool, wouldn't it, if they did start doing... Yeah, NGX, I know. Gaz chose literally the worst screenshot in the world. Like, literally look at my face there. I look like I'm catching flies. Yeah.
It was on purpose. I picked that one. Well, I was mainly looking for a smile from John, and the screenshot that came out with John smiling was a picture of you looking like something had just smacked you in the head. So
yeah, I literally look like someone's just dropped their balls on screen. Yeah, that's basically what that is.
Dear God.
But yeah, no, back to I do hope. I hope if they said they're going to be doing streams, I hope they go sort of the same way that the Division community guys have gone, where they have their weekly streams. You know, they've always got like state of the play or state of the game on a Thursday, and then Fridays always like DZ Fridays, where it's like the community developer and a dev, or the game director or creative director Terry on stream, couple of hours just asking questions and playing games. So I hope they do something very similar along those lines, because it's just engaging, right?
Well, you're right. And there's been some, I think there was a post on Reddit a few weeks ago where someone asked, is there going to be like, like a weekly, insight? As you say, with the Division, the one thing that Ubisoft did very well at the beginning, and I was surprised when they did this, they started to do what they call the State of the Game update, which was a weekly update about what was going on in Division, in particular in response to some of the feedback they were getting from the challenges and the problems that they were having with the online mode of the game, particularly the Dark Zone. And I remember at the time, I think we spoke about it, I was very cynical. I said, oh, they're shooting themselves in the foot here if they think they're going to have this weekly thing set up. And holy crap, they did it. They kept doing it. And they were there again and again and again and again. Even when there was no massive news, they were there. And if you went to the Twitch, the chat roll, you could just see just flaming and insults and all sorts of things coming through. So I don't know. Do you expect to see something like that, like a weekly, fortnightly kind of insight update?
I don't necessarily believe it will be weekly, but maybe the State of the Game was put into to create a direct connection between the community and the development team, so they could feed updates on all the different bugs and problems like that. And it was something that was great, that was founded out of crap, right? I don't know. This game doesn't have the elements that the Division had, but it would be good to see something more like DZ Fridays or Developer Play Fridays. Where on a Friday you get a community guy and you get a developer in a room and you're just running through the game, just talking through it, talking about different mechanics, different design principles, stuff like why they chose to do this over that. And just answering general communications. And then if there are problems and there are bugs, they can communicate them that way. I think it would be amazing if they could do that.
From what we've seen so far, I think it's likely. As to the frequency of it, not sure how that would work. Particularly in the early stages at launch, we don't have a PvP environment to be worried about. They did say specifically at launch, so not at launch. So that may be something down the track that sort of helps drive it. But in the early days, it might be patches, bugs, early fixes that have to be addressed. And there will be, let's face it, at the end of the day, the way that games work and the function in the modern era, there will be those elements that we have to manage.
Yeah.
But what we do, there was a question there from Resh Akut in the chat, and I like that. He mentioned, do you think there'll be lots of puzzles in stronghold raids or in open world? Destiny's 2 puzzles were really good. So if you don't know what that is, of course, we're talking about strongholds being the equivalent to dungeons. Now, it's important to point out that there has been many references on Reddit and on Twitter to the strongholds being, akin to dungeons and the 4-player only activity. But there's also been references dropped by BioWare devs talking about the bigger activity. So they haven't called it a raid, but they were talking about bigger activities beyond the stronghold. So there is still those to contend. And I suspect that might be where you start to see more of those puzzle elements that you might be familiar with from Destiny. Byron, what say you?
Uh, yeah, I'm gonna hold my hopes out. I'm not gonna. You know, strongholds are meant to be, just really four-player, long, lengthy missions. If they do bring anything bigger than strongholds in, obviously we know it's not going to be for launch, so it'll be further down the line. But if they did something like that, where you could have like 8 javelins, for example, that would be incredible. That'd be amazing.
You know, I'd just be happy, at least in strongholds, to have a few little cute diversions, whether they be little hidden areas or little secret locations. They don't have to be something that's critical, but they might add a bit of, I guess, fresh element. And then, of course, you could reset those, so you could change the location of those, etc., etc.
Yeah. Puzzle. I'm a huge fan of puzzles, especially puzzles that require teamwork to solve. So Destiny does it, and since D1 have done it brilliantly, right? Though whether it's a mechanical puzzle where it's a lot of timing and a lot of spacing, to puzzles where it just requires you to shoot the right thing at the right time. Destiny, Bungie have always done it really well. So
what was the puzzle in there was a mission in Division, I can't remember it now. It was the one where it was like a giant, was it a flame tank or something, and you had to, and the whole factory was burning down, and you had to stand in certain places to trigger certain, I can't remember it now. It was something like that.
No, you're thinking more Grand Assembly, aren't you, when you have the turrets?
No, it was later on.
Anyway, you're thinking Dragon's Nest.
Dragon's Nest, there it is. That's it. So, Reshikot, you mentioned in the chat, he was talking about some of the puzzles that sort of require that cooperation that you mentioned, Binary. And yeah, that could have sprung to mind. So obviously, Destiny does that, and of course, some of them in Division, of course, did that quite well. So yeah, I'd like to see something that does require cooperation. I think it's critical because it's quite obvious that BioWare have made it clear that the team content, the team play element of Anthem is a major part. And because there's no PvP, it drives the importance of this team cooperative world, this my story, our world conversation.
Yeah.
I think they need to. I think, I'm not sure if they will, but I think they need to have some sort of cooperative elements, whether they can, puzzles or activities that will keep you engaged and keep you coming back for more.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Yeah. Anyway, so there's some good points there. The chat's pumping. So thank you guys for your contributions. Of course, in the meantime, we had the Grab It reveal. Now, we did have that in the last week and a half because we spent our last week's cast with John. We didn't spend too much time on that, but there was a lovely picture of the Grab It dropped. So, Brian, I'm not sure if you've got that local that you could share.
Grab it.
But that glorious picture has been the fear, the incessant fear of Twitter when that image appeared after an Anthem Friday. Of course, it was dropped by BioWare, and I think it was retweeted by Mark and a few of the guys. That was the first, and to be fair, probably one of the most detailed looks at creatures outside of the Javelin. So it was a very insightful image. It's very seamlessly simple, but holy crap. Are you ready to be eaten by this thing?
That thing looks horrendous.
Well, how would you describe it?
How would I describe it? A little bit like an emu and what's they called? A peacock.
Yeah.
It's like an emu crossed with a peacock.
It looks like those monstrous bastardizations that come out of No Man's Sky. It looks like one of those.
No Man's Sky, yeah.
It looks like someone, and I don't mean that in a bad way, of course. If BioWare's listening, I don't actually mean that from a negative point of view, but I mean it just the juxtaposition of a beak with sort of bird feathers, insect eyes, and whiskers. It just contradicts everything you consider to be a normal animal.
Yeah. It's very, very weird looking.
Now, imagine that sort of in this sort of, I can picture it kind of like this, like an ostrich kind of movement, sort of curving its head about, but moving ferociously quickly through the foliage. Like, imagine that running at you. It'd be...
yeah, you'd be petrified.
So I love that, and of course you remember in the early days they mentioned that one of the reasons you're going to have to have the javelin suit was because of all the dangers that lie beyond the wall. And I don't think I ever thought that this would be one of those things, but yeah.
Yeah, that is one scary motherfucker. What we should probably do, actually, we should probably do a show based on all and try and do a grab of all the creatures we've seen through all the different gameplay trailers and stuff, and then just literally run through them. We should probably do that.
It could be like Perfect Match, like a dating game.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
What we'll do is anyone in the community submit your pictures, your profile pictures, and we will match you up with an Anthem beast.
Oh my God, we've done it.
Yeah.
We've done it. Yeah. This is our next segment.
It'll be the Anthem Universe Bestiality Matchmaking Service.
Oh, Jesus. You always have to take it a step further. You really do. I'm going with innocent dating, and anyway, exciting stuff.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll make it a game.
Oh, dear. We're going to trademark that right now. But of course, other things happening was the announcement of the game going alpha. Now, we did mention that very briefly at the interview with John, but I remember it wasn't something we really, I guess, reflected on much. But no doubt that's a very good sign. Of course, it means the game is in a pretty much complete state. It means that it's not perfect. There's bugs and obviously things that need to get ironed out, and no doubt adjustments and updates and patches, etc. But we, ladies and gentlemen, have what is essentially a fully playable, for all intents and purposes, complete game.
Yeah, that's amazing. So basically, for those of you that may know, and some of you that may not, alpha literally means that they have everything built in a game working. The game is effectively playable from start to finish.
Alpha, you mean?
It's not
you said Anthem.
No, I said alpha. Did I say alpha or did I say Anthem?
You said Anthem. I was like, what? Oh. Anthem means what?
Alpha means. But yeah, which is amazing. So also slightly worrying since you've got 5 months till launch, but no, it's not worrying at all. It's such a big game that's always going to happen, but it's amazing. It must be a huge thing for them to realise that they now actually have a game from end to end.
It also must be horrifying.
Yeah.
From a reality point of view, you're talking about a culmination of UI design, creature design, animation, AI, sound, audio, mechanics, mission structure, campaigns. There is so much all coming together.
Currency,
quests. It's so much coming. Yeah, all coming together. And for us, it was just something that was a long way out. Remember, it was a game that's coming out in February 2018. It got pushed, remember, from 2017 to 2018. But we're here. Like we're at a point now where there's, the alpha's there. Gold state won't be far away. This game will go gold probably before the end of the year, I suspect, if not very, very early 2019, in order to achieve that February launch date.
Yeah.
Holy crap! Like that time went quick. And especially the time since E3, because we kind of really went on a rampage of content and conversations ever since E3 in June, and thankfully it's been non-stop. I don't stop thinking about this game at the moment. I'm going nuts.
Yeah, losing my mind.
I'm literally sitting there on the train going to work, thinking, what can we write about this afternoon? What intrigues me most about what's happening right now? What's going on? So that's bit problematic.
Yeah.
I think I have a problem.
Yeah, no, I agree. NGX. I wonder how big the game download is going to be if you are going to go digital. I reckon it's probably going to be in the 40 to 60s range. I can't see it being much more than that.
I don't know. Yeah, it's a hard question. It depends on assets as well. What's been the biggest? I mean, Forza 4 when that dropped. No, Forza 7. Sorry, when that dropped was. With the 4K textures, it was 120 gig. And I think Gears of War 4 was 90 gig on PC. That's been the two biggest ones in my recent memory, from a size point of view. But as I agree with you, I suspect, Reshako, you just mentioned there that Red Dead Redemption 2 is 105 gig. So yeah, good point. Yeah, I don't know, but I'd agree with you, Binary. I think in this point, at least at this point of the time, 60 to 75 is probably a good sweet spot.
Yeah.
It certainly won't be what someone on Twitter thought it was. Where's that tweet that was? Oh, here it is. So someone from Twitter spoke about, it's the last tweet in our list there, Binary, and it was from Demented Razor. And he said, I just pre-ordered Anthem, and it says 100.8 meg. And the question is this how big the game is, or will it download when the game releases? Let me put it this way. Quake 1, I played Quake 1 way back in the day. I think I was 19. What was that, 97, 96? That game was 90 meg. I certainly think the game is not 100 meg. It's more than likely a placeholder download, probably that's been just added to the game list in Origin. And of course, Darrah certainly agrees, and he says that it's definitely not how big the game is. Anyway, good questions. I like how he still answers those ones. Gotta love it.
Yeah. I like some of the comments. Thick Boy must be at least a gig on its own.
Poor Colossus.
Yeah. So funny.
Actually, maybe Colossus is so big he won't make the day one. It'll be a day one patch for Colossus. He won't fit.
Wow, actual PewDiePie meme. God, I don't see many of those anymore.
No, not at all.
Loads.
All right. Anyway, look, that's probably the most critical conversations that we have for this week. There were a few tweets, of course, that were dropped as usual, and it would be remiss not for us not to talk about the Diaries of Darrah, of course, always producing interesting conversations each week. And these first two, we're going to sort of show those shortly. The first two in the list here. Now, these are very obvious things, and I just want to make this clear. I think everyone who's probably listening, I suspect, probably knows this, but there's a lot of people in the community. I know some very close friends of mine that I've been speaking to just today, who, when I mentioned Anthem to them, one of them actually said, "Oh, Anthem, that's just like Destiny 2. There's no campaign, right? I'm not interested. I don't want to play a multiplayer game." And you know what? I think we forget, again, I've mentioned this before, but we're in that position where we're constantly talking about it and we're constantly engaged with what's going on. But a lot of people still don't really can contemplate where this game is and I guess what's going on with it. So yeah. I think it's important to reminisce and remind ourselves, in particular, that you can play the story solo. It's probably something you can champion and share with people. Because there's a lot of assumptions out there about what this game's going to be. Of course, we haven't seen a lot about all of this yet in terms of campaign, but it's a nice reminder for people that are, more, I guess, intent on the single-player side of the game.
Yes.
The second tweet there that we talked about was there was a confirmation from Mark that there is no strongholds as solo, and I think that's what we expected. That's nothing new. But again, the conversation with that, quite simply, was that you need to be in a team in order to complete the strongholds. A few people on Twitter were a little bit curious about that, sort of questioned it a little bit, and sort of went down that old path of, oh god, I mean, this is all going to be multiplayer. Like, there's no element for single player. And I think the most important thing that they were obviously missing was the campaign and the Fort Tarsus progression and all those things that they've been talking about to the game up until this point. The third tweet we had there, Binary, was the multiple characters on a single account. Yeah. So there was confirmation from Mark, and the question there was showing the reality that we can have multiple characters on a single account. Is that a good thing, bad thing?
So that's multiple freelancers, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, just to clarify that. Yeah, that's multiple freelancers on a single account. Okay.
No. You're talking about as in freelancer pilots, so not
Correct.
javelins.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's what I read from that.
yeah, that's
Do you
what I
agree?
read from it. Which is interesting actually, because I thought the whole point was that you just needed one freelancer and have multiple javelins. So I don't know the purpose of having multiple freelancers or the ability to have multiple freelancers.
Could
Maybe
it be if you
because
just want if you
maybe
want to
if you
restart the grind?
yeah, or you answer you want to maybe task lists can be that different depending on your choices.
Mm-hmm.
That you could maybe that would be its purpose. Let's just hope it's not like the Division, so we got more stash pace.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I remember that was one thing that I think the thing I enjoyed about the division the most was actually the grind from level 1 to 30. Like
Yeah,
that was a really enjoyable progression. So it's quite possible that that's relevant there. And when you get to your top level, you've unlocked all your javelins. You might want to go back and start again and re-explore. And hopefully the campaign is dynamic enough to really, I guess, create, I guess, a fresh conversation for you each time,
yeah.
as best it can, of course, being a campaign. But anyway, that was some good insights from multiple characters. There was a quick tweet there, the fourth one that we had in the list there, and it was in regards to DLC. And again, the question was, will we have to buy a season pass? And I think this is a reminder, that season pass and DLC, BioWare have obviously been talking a lot about these things not being part of Anthem. But it is quite a common question because it is really, I mean, it's become part of our nomenclature. It's the language of gaming. So I think it's a fair question. I know they get it a lot, but it's very telling how much they get it.
Yes. Yeah, they've been getting it a lot, and I think it's because it's normal now, right? Even on just single player games that have no multiplayer, have nothing. They're not even online, right? We'll have a season pass where you'll pay to get extra stuff.
Yeah.
So
And it's so prevalent. Like Forza, the Forza Horizon 4 just dropped. People love that game. Like it's 9.5, 9.8. There is so much love for that game in the racing community. But there is that stigma of how have rolled out their microtransaction process. And there's a similar thing with Assassin's Creed. Again, both games that can be really run as a very single player centric experience, but have a season pass with with microtransactions and able to purchase individual credits for unique currencies. And so there's a lot of still, even now, confusion and questions and conversations. So it's a good reassurance that we don't have to be worrying about that for now. But I suspect, I guess that question beckons, though. As you know, Binary have always said that they're going to focus for revenue streams on, cosmetics.
yeah.
Do you think? I mean, I'm not sure from your experiences with Destiny and every other game like this. Do you actually think that cosmetics is going to be enough to drive revenue and ongoing conversation for Anthem?
That's a loaded question because I could rant on this for ages. Do you know the only problem I have with Anthem being a social game compared to like Division and Destiny is Division and Destiny both have these social spaces where you don't have to be in a team. You can go to and you will see you'll see other agents, you'll see other guardians, and it's a place where you can show off, your full Iron Banner gear, Iron Banner set, or your full raid gear. And Division has obviously the boo, and then different safe houses and stuff where you can show off your patches or the different outfits that you can get. Anthem doesn't have anything like that, which for a game that is going to be made, that's looking to try and monetize off cosmetics, where no one actually has the ability to show off their cosmetics, is a little bit. It doesn't seem forward thinking enough. Like I appreciate at the beginning people are going to want to buy their colours or cosmetics at the beginning for their own aesthetic pleasure, but at the end of the day, right, fashion is only fashion because people want to show off what they're wearing to other people. Otherwise, if people didn't care about that, we'd just all walk around in robes and togas, right? So, it'll be interesting to see how that pans out.
Indeed. Injex raised a good point as well when he mentioned that any new suits that he thinks, in his opinion, any new suits that drop will be paid unlocks. So that could be a good point, as in a fair conversation. Yeah. Any new Javelin suits that come post-launch then become a paid unlock. So that's I guess a secondary. I guess I'm not, and I think if people are sort of thinking, why is he saying it like this? Don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting that I want to have all these sorts of microtransactions, but the curiosity beckons is that if other organizations have, felt the need to bring those models in, to what extent will BioWare be successful with both the customization of cosmetics and the microtransactions around cosmetics and future Javelin unlocks? Time will tell, I guess, is one of those great parties. And oh my god, in the chat, they're just starting a toga party.
Toga party.
Toga. Sorry, we got a bit carried away there. Bit of John Belushi and Animal House for your viewing pleasure. The next shopping, I guess, element that we're going to talk about was the weapon slots. So weapon slots here only for weapons was a conversation on Twitter from Isaac Hall, Mr. AK4723. Don't mess with Mr. AK47_23. This guy knows. He's mentioning, would leaving a weapon slot empty open us up to something else? For example, high mobility, or allow us to put something else there? And no. So weapon slots are for weapon slots.
Yeah, name a game where that has ever happened.
I was thinking, what?
I'm trying to think of a game where I've sacrificed a weapon slot for a ability. I can't think of where that's possible.
Yeah, no, I had nothing. No. Something that was more interesting, however, was the HUD question. Now, a simple little question, but something relevant, of course, was a question from Curva Thomas, and he said, are the HUDs in each Javelin the same? Good question. I like that. That's a sort of insightful question.
It is a good question.
The answer is, I think they are the same. So it's not a definite, but it's a good point. Does the visual HUD overlay that you see on screen, does that vary, change, and adjust itself for each Javelin?
I think that may have been something that they would not have thought about. Like with a Storm, would you have a slightly different HUD or show slightly different information to, being in a Colossus, right? Yeah, you could have different screen pops or see different information about the enemy, for example, because they do that in Destiny, right? So if you're a Night Stalker hunter, when in your HUD or in your minimap, you see all the local, you see what's around you in terms of chests, right? But you can only see where the chests are with that specific subclass. So that's actually quite a cool little feature, actually, that may have gone unthought about or I like that.
Yeah, again, that's what I love. I do love these questions that get pitched to Mark, because some of them I look at and I would never even thought to ask that. So nicely done. Now, of course, for those that are really excited about the Legion of Dawn skins and other things, this was, I think, an important tweet. The tweet further down here is, we can change the Legion of Dawn armor skin colors. Now, that's important if you are pre-ordering. Remember, you do get the Legion of Dawn color skin. Yeah, I did. And that will allow you to then actually change the color of that armor, which I think is interesting, because we all just presumed that the Legion of Dawn armor would be that silver, chrome finish, and that would be that. So the good news is we will be able to adjust the colors on that.
Yeah, so that's interesting, isn't it? So the Legion. So I wonder if that's actually the same for all cosmetics. Is the actual cosmetics are actually physical cosmetics, and then you can choose whatever colors you want over the top.
Absolutely, and a tweet that follows that speaks exactly to your point, Binary. So now you mention it, it's a very good conversation, because indeed you can change more than just what we're used to. And these conversations, for those who play Destiny, you would be used to conversations around shaders. And there was plenty of controversy, if you recall, with Destiny 2 when they tweaked how shaders worked. Fortunately, it looks as though we won't be having those sort of conversations here. You can actually set up, adjust, and tweak your own colors for the suits as you progress. So I think that's a good move for us. That was probably the bulk of that. What was the next one? Ooh, this is a great one. Now, someone asked, can you customize your striders? And up until this point, the answer has been no. The answer now, the most recent tweet from Mark's reply, was not now, but perhaps launch.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I like that. I like that. Not at launch. However, it's an open window, but we do know that Mark has been cryptic with these things in the past, hasn't he, Binary?
He has indeed. He has indeed.
Because not at launch can also mean not ever.
Yeah.
But he has a lot of fun. And I was saying to this the other day, someone asked, I think, in the Discord, what does he answer these questions? And I said, I think deep down he really enjoys it. I think there's a brilliance, there's an excitement to be the holder of knowledge when people are sort of seeking that. And I don't think, no matter what sort of person you are, if you're in that position, there's a kick, and it's an enjoyable position to be in.
Amazing.
What else have we got here? Probably wrap up on these last couple of points, and we'll finish up.
What about the big news one? We're not going to talk about that.
Oh, what big news one?
The one where the javelins and the stories.
Nah, I don't want to talk about that.
Oh, okay, fine.
No, talk about it. Tell me.
It was where they said that the javelins were. You did an article on it, you fuckface.
I know. I was being. Oh. Yeah, I was being sick.
I just thought you'd do a nice little crossfade into the last segment.
No, I like it there. But of course, you can check out YouTube, the Anthem Universe YouTube. We did a quick video on this just the other day, and it was critical. So, Brian, can you explore a little bit about why it's a conversation?
So yeah, this is pretty big on Twitter, Reddit, everywhere. Is that there is actually a fundamental design choice change that happened, and that up until now, for the last year and a half, they've talked about the javelins will be behind certain story arcs. And depending on which way you choose to tackle the map will depend on how or which way you unlock javelins. That is now not happening. So javelins are no longer locked behind story missions. That was basically the crux of it, right? Which is huge, right? And Gaz you should really go and watch the videos. Gaz really talked to it really well, actually. And it's just the implication of how interesting of a design choice difference that makes, considering some people may not want to follow the story arc to unlock those javelins. And what the real reason was that they found that javelins would be unlocked too late in the game when you could actually use them a lot sooner, right?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of conversations, of course, on Reddit and in our Discord, and it's been just interesting. I made reference to a few of the guys in particular. I think Slakula and NJX raised some good conversations. And yeah, it is an interesting shift. I don't think it's not a game-breaking shift, as we mentioned, but it really begs the question, and I think I raised that on the Reddit thread as well. What was the motivation there, and was it purely about player behavior? Was it testing internally that resulted in some of the devs, for example, actually not unlocking certain javelins for, they just weren't motivated. So the activity or the story didn't actually drive them to open that, to unlock that javelin. And then they progressed down their own little path, got to a certain point in the game, and then realized quickly, when BioWare did some reviews, maybe 50% of people, 75% of people only had 3 of the 4 javelins unlocked. Yeah. And as I hinted at in the video, that might not sound like a problem, but it could be if they actually intend you to have all those for a story piece at the end. Or, as I said, it could also be a revenue point of view. I mean, to be fair, there's a reality that if you have more suits unlocked, then you're going to do more customization, and there's that. Are you concerned that you won't, that you will see you've ranked up level 5? Congratulations. Here's Interceptor, or better yet, I should say, here's Make Your Choice. Are you do you think that that'll be a disconnect from your game style, from your gameplay?
I don't think it'll be a disconnect. No, I don't think it'll be a disconnect. I suppose I don't mind having stuff locked behind story missions because I am a lore person anyway. I play the games for the story. I suppose it will, as long as I suppose the difference was that what I quite liked about them having behind a story mission is that they came with then lore. Right, they came with moments or anthem moments that you would remember about why you got your javelin, or why you got your storm, why you got your colossus. So I'm hoping that that type of experience will still be in there when you're getting your javelin, rather than just selecting it from a menu or having enough credits to buy one. But we'll see, I guess.
So do you think it'll be something like, you pick, let's say you reach level 10, so you pick the Interceptor, but then you actually don't get the Interceptor, but you get ushered straight to where the Interceptor will be, or maybe you get the Interceptor suit, and then you immediately go on, and the next part of the campaign is a mission that's very contextual to that javelin.
No, I think for me it would be good that they were just behind a quest line outside of the story arc, right? So you just get access to that quest line, irrelevant of how far you are in the story. You get to level 10 and you go and speak to Halleck or whatever, and he gives you a quest line for a storm, for example, or a colossus. And that is separate to the story, and you have to go and do a load of stuff which is specific for that. I quite like the idea of that. If that's what they're going to be doing, then that'd be great.
So in your solution, you still get the best of both worlds. You're getting the unlock at the level. You're making your choice, but then you're still going on a journey.
Yeah, I quite like that.
One commenter I noticed on Reddit mentioned Mass Effect, and they said, "Look, remember in Mass Effect 2, and of course, this is also in our Discord, by the way, discord.anthemuniverse.com, and we're talking about Mass Effect 2 was a good example. I think it might have been, who was it? I think it was Lord... Oh, his name escapes me right now. How have I gone blank? Was it Lord of the Wall? I think it was Lord of the Wall. And anyway, Lord of the Wall and I were having a chat about that in the Discord, and I think the conversation was, it would have been cool if it was like Mass Effect 2, where if you remember Mass Effect 2, it's a bit of a collectathon. You are going out to engage certain individuals on certain missions to encourage them to be part of your situation. And I actually threw caution to the wind with it. I actually responded and said, well, one thing we should remember is that these things are suits. You know what I mean? Like, I know we love Inti, and we love Storm, and we love Ranger, and we love Colossus. We love our Thick Boy, and we love our Ninja. We love these things, but one also should remember that this is an exosuit. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like a character. It doesn't have a personality. It doesn't have a backstory. It doesn't have it might have some sort of history about who built it, but its lore is very much a mechanical, functional lore. It's got nothing really to do with personality or motivations or deception or all those things. So I think it's important when people got upset about that. I remember thinking, I don't think it's that bad, because we need to remember that this is not a character. This is a suit. You're the character, and the people in your TARSUS are going to be your interactions. So I thought that was just a point that we should call out. Because this is different. That's the thing I think is different from our regular BioWare conversation.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's true. It's a very, very good point.
Look, I think, is there any other tweets there that interest you? I think that's probably most of the ones that I'm interested in for today. There's a few others there, but look, we can come back to those, I think, next time. It was interesting to hear that, as I mentioned, the Striders can be customized, or perhaps not at launch, perhaps in the future. But anyway, we'll see how that pans out and what more is to await for us in the coming weeks and months from Anthem. And of course, we're going to talk more about this stuff, and no doubt, being part of the Game Changer Network, this makes for very exciting conversations moving forward. So again, once again, as Binary, you hinted at earlier on the show, absolute thank you to everyone that's been a part of this community and that's really, I guess, helped engage, whether it be on Twitter. You know, some of you guys really engage and we tweet and you have a bit of fun. Hopefully, you know, we like to have a bit of fun on Twitter and we play around there. And then in Discord, you often find it's probably more actually, you know, conversations about lore and gameplay mechanics and other things as well. So it's been an absolute, wow. I was going to say, it's been an effing ride. And we're not even at launch yet. So this is some good things ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Took the words right out my mouth.
Yeah. But I think we're going to wrap it here. So, I mean, where can we find the goodness, Binary?
You can find us at AnthemUniverse.com. You can find us on Twitter at AnthemUniverse. Why don't you come and jump in the Discord, talk to some Grabbits, come and have some Scar Burgers, and talk some lore, talk to some amazing other freelancers at discord.anthemuniverse.com. You can find us here, obviously, on Twitch, which is obviously where you are right now, which is it's not at, but it's twitch.tv, Anthem Universe. And then you can also find us, where else can you find us? On Mixer as well. We don't stream to Mixer, and you can find me at Binary Numb. So and that's everywhere.
Indeed. All good. We'll wrap it there. As I said, I am at Ogaz, and of course, as a collective, we are at Anthem Universe. Stick to AU, enjoy the Discord, the Twitters, and of course, Javelins, freelancers, we will see you next.
Over the wall.